Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Soul Food Book Club, where we feed our soul with good, inspiring written words. And today we have the author of, hold your books up, please, Rhyming Reflections and Inspired Intentions. Thank you, Mary Lou Burdick, for being with us today.
Thank you, Teri. It's such an honor to be here with all of you that are on the screen visual that have become my close friends. And welcome to others that I don't know that might be joining us.
Yeah, and I love Jean's book. I think Jean got a special book because her sparkles.
Yeah. It's so awesome.
And I can't see it as well as we did the other day.
It's the sparkles, I see it.
Both sides of it sparkle. I don't know.
We have our Auntie Jean Loriot that's with us from Texas and sparkling like crazy. We have Stacy Small Lord, who's in the other room with me. We have the beautiful Grace Isas joining us, but we can't see her.
Hello.
Hi, everybody. This is our second meeting on this book, and I just want to know how you all are loving it.
Very much, very much.
I love it.
Good.
She has all my thoughts, only she puts them down in poetry.
She writes
her love
poetry.
for nature, her love for everything. And she just, she has a gift. Why did the recording stop?
Tell me my disk space is insufficient.
Oh, maybe we don't need it today. Maybe we don't need it today.
Oh, our computers sometimes rule us, don't they?
The machinery rules us.
Yes, I'm so happy that you all love it. I had given a copy to a friend of mine who's an older woman from church, and I found it fascinating, how each one of the poems speaks to people in their own way. And, and she made a comment to me and said, I think everyone will eventually, speak to me. It depends what day I'm reading it and how I'm feeling about it. And that made me happy, because I think that's a true thing, and it's good if we have a realization of that the book isn't, necessarily sit down, read through the whole thing and be done. That it's an interactive kind of a book, where maybe sometimes you'll focus on the poem, maybe sometimes you'll focus on one question or a different one than another time. Maybe sometime you'll just use journaling for it, to express your own poems. And of course, I love especially the intentions, because I think that that's such an important part of who we are is, giving that love we have inside of us and sharing it, with others, sometimes unexpectedly, sometimes somebody maybe we're not feeling the love and we can do a good deed for them that day.
Yeah, that's so true. And, these poems, it's so beautiful because you can just open the book and go to any of the poems, and there's such a message in each one. And the reflective questions are just so beautiful. Mary Lou, you did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
And I know today we were thinking about bringing in a poem that touched us out of your book and our thoughts on it, or if we had written a poem of our own, we could bring that to talk about and read. So just open it up to see if that has happened, or if anybody just wants to share anything. There's no have-tos on the book club. So whatever you want to share today is perfect. And let's just get this conversation going.
And I just wanted to say, Mary Lou, you opened up poetry to me, the world of poetry, because I love poetry, but I've never been, that into poetry. But now the world of poetry's opened up and I'm loving it. So thank you for that.
Good.
And I keep trying to find a way to write a poem. I did write a poem. It came to me in my sleep, but I don't know if I want to read it.
What do you do?
No pressure.
I wrote a silly poem.
A silly
You did.
poem. I love that.
Well, except I don't know if I'll say it correctly because I typed it on my machine, and my computer, I shouldn't call it a machine, it wouldn't print it. I don't know what's going on with that printer, but it wouldn't print it. So I got to read it off of the original kind of scribbles. And so I may not get it right, but I said, I'm sitting down to write a poem, but nothing will come out. You'd think with all the travel, all the years I've lived and things I've done, that I would have something to write about. I could write about the majestic mountains or beautiful woodland streams. I could write about the changes I've seen on earth, or tell you about my secret dreams. Since I can't think of anything very important or interesting to say, nothing to casually talk about, or even something good to pray, I guess I'll just say I love you all and wish you a good day.
I love it.
Aren't you proud of yourself, Dante Jean? Aren't you so proud of yourself that you could, just sit and be with your thoughts? I think it's magical, because you don't always have a plan, you don't always know where's this going to go.
Well, the only thing I could think of is I can't think of anything, so I wrote about that.
And how awesome is that?
Yeah. Here's a little poem I wrote a long time ago. You probably can't see. It's like a haiku. I was taking a writing class, okay? And she would give us words we had to use in the poem. And the words she gave us was dusk, dove, messenger, and wire. Those were the 4 words she gave us. So what I wrote is, dusk glides in like a dove, a messenger of peace, then sits upon earth's wire, awaiting dawn, the harbinger of chaos. If you don't know what a harbinger is, it's just another name for messenger, but it's a bad messenger. And that's what I wrote with those words. And I do love doing it. It's just that right now, I don't know whether it's my age or what. It's just like, nothing seems to want to work anymore. So read us your poem now that I've embarrassed myself. Come on.
You didn't embarrass yourself.
There is nothing embarrassing, Jean. I love it. I love that you're able to express yourself like that.
Yeah.
And to
Beautiful.
have fun. Have fun with it. How beautiful is that?
But this is beautiful. Her book is beautiful. That's the poems that are beautiful.
It is. Stacy, I'm sorry, did I interrupt you?
No, I interrupted you, I think. But no, I was saying Jean's was beautiful. And my question to you and Mary Lou and whoever else, I always thought poems had to rhyme. So I'm learning now that the world of poetry that I'm even Googling how to make poetry, they don't have to rhyme.
No.
That's pretty cool.
Right. Yeah,
I think a poem is an expression of whatever it is within you.
it is. And what a great segue into a poem that I wrote yesterday. I had accompanied Stacy to her hair appointment. Doesn't she look beautiful? Her hair looks so good.
I was going to comment on that, Stacy. It looks great.
I'm blonde again.
Beautiful.
So while I was sitting there, I wrote this poem. And this was before I chose one of Mary Lou's poems, which I will go into that as well. But as I sat there, just having this time to myself and thinking, okay, what thoughts are coming forth right now? And I just tried to stay in the moment, what's coming forth. So, and it's not a rhyming poem, Stacy. So see, there was a reason that came up today. Hold on to love when things look unlovable, when time seems cruel, when life hands you a challenge. Hold on to hope when situations seem hopeless, when doors start closing, when you reach a dead end. Hold on to peace when turbulence roars, when waves crash into the shore, when your heart is broken. Hold on, don't let go of love, hope, and peace.
Beautiful.
Oh,
I love it.
I sure am glad that I didn't wait to read my poem after that.
Oh my goodness, Jean.
I love that. That's beautiful.
Oh,
That's a lot.
Each one has beauty.
I mean, that's
yeah.
beautiful.
Everyone, there's no comparison. When we
No.
talk about
Not
our
really.
creativity, we talk about, what's coming out of our heart. There's no comparison. There's none better, none worse, there's nothing that's ugly about any poem or any writing. It's coming from your heart, and that's what's important.
All right, I'll read mine that I got in my dream then.
Okay.
Peer pressure. No, just kidding. Okay.
Positive peer pressure.
Yes. You guys
Positive.
are pushing me out of my comfort zone in a good way. So, okay, here's the poem that I woke up with in my mind and I wrote it down. I listened to write it down. Who is that girl, I sit and ask? Who is this girl hiding behind this mask? Is she kind or is she brash? Take a look inward and ask. Who is this girl behind the mask? A wounded woman, perhaps? A woman who loves beyond measure, yet her mask is her favored treasure. A woman who rages and then cries. A woman who tells a story just with her eyes. Who is this girl behind the mask? She's every woman, just turn and ask.
Stacy,
Love
how
that.
could you not love that?
I do love it. And Stacy, you read it to me. Was it yesterday, I think, when it came through and you read it? But hearing it just now, it really resonates, and I love that poem.
Oh, thank you. I woke up and it was just in my mind, so I wrote it down. So every morning now I'm thinking, where's my poem?
Love it.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Wow.
Thank you, Mary Lou, because I wouldn't have even thought about poetry. So thank you.
You're welcome. Last time we came together and we were talking, we were thinking, my niece Tina had mentioned, me growing up hearing poems from my family, and I couldn't think of one from my dad, but he always loved the poem by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. And, he was such a romantic, he you wouldn't know it by meeting him because he was like a rather short looking Frenchman. And he was always happy. And, that was his ambience, I would say, was happiness and intelligence. And as I grew up, I learned that he had proposed to my mother on Valentine's Day. And the story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning and her husband, they were both poets and they fell in love with each other, and it was a secret relationship. So I think that kind of inspired me outside of the learning experience I had in school, where we all studied poetry and all, at some phase of our education, in elementary and middle school. I think I think in mine we did the Shakespearean kind of education in high school with the plays. But when we I think about my past with the poetry and how blessed I was that, my father would make sure that we all knew that poem and that he loved it for my mother. And when at her funeral in our church, we're able to do a eulogy, and that was part of it, where my daughter read that poem, and the last line of the poem says, I will love you eternally,
Can
and
I read it, Mary Lou? Can I
do
read
you
the
have
poem?
do you
I
have it,
do.
Teri?
I
I'd love
do.
it.
And I love this poem. I was thinking as you were talking in school, we had to read all the time. And I was drawn to poetry. And this was one of my favorite poems as well. How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. I love thee to the depth and breadth and height my soul can reach when filling out of sight. For the ends of being an ideal grace, I love thee to the level of every day's most quiet need by sun and candlelight. I love thee freely as men strive for right. I love thee purely as they turn from praise. I love thee with the passion put to use in my old griefs and with my childhood's faith. I love thee with the love I seemed to lose with my lost saints. I love thee with the breath, smiles, tears of all my life. And if God choose, I shall love thee better after death. I
Doesn't
love
that,
that
I
poem.
mean, it's so rich with so
It-
many thoughts.
Yes, it's such an inspiring poem. So I see why your father loved that and
Yeah.
why you responded so well to it, to become creative in your own way of making poetry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's so
I want to
beautiful.
read one of your poems that touched me. And, I opened up the book and this was the page it went to. And I knew that was my poem. And I felt like you wrote that poem just for me, Mary Lou. And I'm going to
Good.
adopt it as my poem for the Peace on Earth tour. The poem is The Peaceful Traveler. Freedom in motion, a journey through life's dialogue in continuous conversation with happiness and harmony, carried along in melodious song among silence and serenity.
It was written for you.
It was written for me.
Oh my goodness, Teri.
Yeah.
That makes me so happy. Who
And
knew when I was writing that?
And even the questions that you ask, what is the place you call home? Well, Mary Lou, you probably heard me say over and over again, home is wherever I go. When I go into somebody's beautiful family home, I feel like I am home.
Yes.
So home is wherever I am. Wherever I travel on this journey, it's home. And how would I describe freedom? Freedom is letting go of all the limitations, mostly the limitations I put on myself. And as I've traveled over the last year, those have just fallen away. They've fallen by the wayside. And what I'm left with is just this lightness, this air of, I can do anything. And going forward without any fear, that's freedom. To lose the fear is freedom. And in the third question, what spiritual place in our world is your destination? See, you wrote this just for me. I know you did.
And it was 30, 35 or 40 years ago.
Right, exactly.
How awesome.
Everything is timeless.
Yep, the eternal now.
Yes, it certainly is. So thank you. Thank you
and
for
what
writing
was your
that
answer?
poem.
What was your answer to the
my
third
destination?
one?
My destination is whatever is next that the angels show me. I know that I'm going everywhere that they have laid out for me to go to. And I am using that freedom from fear to put one step in front of the other, to sit behind the steering wheel and say, where next, angels? Where do you want me to go? So my destination is where I'm supposed to be at any given moment, and confirmation from my phone.
And you know what I'm
Destination
hearing you
unknown.
say is that your journey is your destination.
It is.
Yeah, I love that.
That's what life is. That's
Yeah,
right.
life is about the journey, you know, the
Mhm.
destination. Those
No
are
wonder,
points
no
along the
wonder
way.
I connected with you so quickly and so immediately, right?
Yes, yes. And I wrote a little haiku to go along with my answer, if you'd like to hear that.
Yes.
As I travel through on my way to roads unknown, I'm feeling so much peace.
Beautiful.
And this journey is a journey of peace, and it has helped me to find that peace inside of me. That's that's my destination, is that peace inside.
And what a beautiful example you are to all
Mhm.
with that. Thank you, Teri.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Okay, for the newbie to poetry, can you explain a haiku?
And haiku is 17 syllables, not words. And the first line of the poem is 7 syllables, I think. Hang on. Is it 7 or 5? I think it's 757. No, it can't be right. 575. So the first line is 5 syllables, the second line is 7, and then the last line is 5.
Thank you.
And it's fun. I think it's fun to do haiku poetry because you can
Some
get
of
so
them.
creative in just that little bit of space. You can just let
It's a little
the
more
words flow.
challenging, Stacy, than trying to just rhyme words. It's a little
Yeah.
more challenging, I think.
Sounds
Yeah.
like it.
And
It's
lots
just
of times
thoughts. Yeah.
you paint a picture, or you find a picture, and the haiku matches the feeling of the artwork or the picture. That's
Mhm.
what the Japanese do a lot. They
Yeah.
have beautiful artwork with their haiku.
Right.
Tracy, you're not saying anything. Where's your poem?
I'm just listening at the moment. Just glad to be here with all of you. Thank you.
I don't want you to think we're forgetting you because you can't be seen.
Oh no, I'll make a roll.
Okay.
I'm so glad you're here, Gracie. And in the audience, we have Tabby. And Tabby said, beautiful, after Stacy, you read yours. And Conchetta Ward, thank you for being with us. Thank you all. And anybody else who's watching, thank you for being with us on the book club. And the book that we are discussing, if you came in later and didn't hear, is Rhyming Reflections and Inspired Intentions, Grace and Gratitude by our very own Mary Lou Burdick, who is the author of these poems. So Mary Lou, has it had time to sink in yet that you're an author?
Yes. Yes, I'm beginning to I don't know. You know, everybody keeps asking me that, you know, and at first I didn't have the words, and apparently I still don't have the words. I know I'm comfortable talking about the poems, and I'm comfortable talking about the intentions that were written and the thoughts that go along with it. You know, I guess I still feel like me. You know, I think the most descriptive thing that comes to me is how thankful and grateful I am, you know, that those inspirations were given to me, and that I had the courage to sit and write them, and how important it is to me now. It's becoming more important to share, you know, because I want to believe that they're going to help somebody and touch somebody in some way. It was unexpected that it would inspire people to write their own poems, because I was going in a different direction with it, obviously, to just be, a means of comfort and interest to people, like poetry can be in a personal way. And I love it, that you've encouraged the book club to write their own poems, and it takes it to another whole level. And I love that.
And it's fun.
Yeah,
Isn't
it's
it fun
fun.
to just
It is fun.
create?
Yes. Yes. Because I had written down, most poems help us to reflect on ourselves. They offer traits that can define us. Poems help us to see our personal value. Personal life experiences mold us, and our own life choices create who we become. And that we're on a journey of change, exploration, loving, connecting, and always enjoying. Poems can help us think about the journey and remind us it isn't always black and white. It isn't always good or bad. It's just something that we need to be, and I love it that you've extended now to others through this book club to write your own poems. It's wonderful. Wonderful. It's not just, poems are not just, in other words, here today, they're not just our reflections and our thoughts and our wonderings. They're something to be shared with others. And I guess that's what it means to me to be, to be a poet. Like you asked me, how does it feel to be a poet? It feels good to know that it can inspire and help others to do similar things.
Yeah, I agree. And I can see years down the road, somebody reading these poems, just like in our past, we read Elizabeth Barrett Browning and were inspired by her.
Absolutely.
You
I'd like
never
to
know,
talk about.
Go ahead, Auntie Jean.
I'm sorry. I just was going to read the poem that I kind of liked. It's a little one, but it's called Desire. And I think it's like a personal thing for me. It says, the daisy and the buttercup await their turns to come, for each a role in nature warming in the morning sun. The need is to be needed, like nectar to the bees, drawn from drones to queen, wherever one heart beats. And I love that one because, and I love your reflections. What is your role in nature? Which is something I think that's really important for us to reflect on, especially now. And then who is it that needs you? And where or whom do you go to when you seek nourishment? I heard a story many years ago, just a little story that where a daughter and a mother lived together, and the mother was always happy, and she was always making everybody around her happy. And her daughter, from the time she was little, would say, Mom, how come you're so happy all the time? Why are you always happy and making everyone happy? And the mom says, well, a fairy whispered the secret in my ear of happiness. And she says, well, tell me what it is. And she says, no, not now. But before I die, I'll tell you the secret. And so time went by, and pretty soon the lady got very old. And actually, she was dying. And her daughter said, Mom, you never told me the secret of happiness. And she said, well, what the fairy told me was, everybody needs you. So I love that story, and this poem reminded me of it because everybody needs you. You might think that you're not important. That's not true. Everybody needs you, and it's a secret of happiness. And who do I go to? Is God for my nourishment. And what is my intention? What you said is to be that one who fulfills somebody else's need. And that's why I think this one just really resonated with me, because I think it is a secret of happiness, being needed. You need to be needed. Everybody, people say they need to be loved. And of course we do. Love is the answer for most things. But we also need to be needed. We need to be important. So I just love that one.
Jean, I think that's so beautiful. And Greg Braden speaks to that. Greg is a scientist. For those of you who aren't aware of who he is, he's a scientist that has helped bridge science and spirituality. And when HeartMath went on this research quest to find out what the secret of longevity is, and they visited some of the really remote areas where people were living to 100, 110, 120 even, they were asking about their life and what was important, what mattered, what they did, and they observed them as they lived their life. And one of the things that came about from that research study was they were needed, and they were given jobs to do in their community, whether it was to watch the children, to teach, for some of them, they were walking at 100 years plus, they were walking to a stream and getting water in a pail and bringing it up to the community. So being needed, you're so right. That is the secret. And that's what the research has shown. If we have a job to do, if we have some need that we are meeting, then we have a purpose to keep getting up in the morning and going about our day and doing those things that we do. Thank you for sharing that.
I love that. I think because as you get older, you feel like you're not needed anymore. And one of the things that being in the angelic family is the feeling that everybody's needed, that you're all needed, that if nothing else, your vibrations of positivity and love are affecting the world, and you're needed for that. So it's beautiful, and this was beautiful. So I think she was always a P, is what I'm saying. Mary Lou has always been a P. And of course, we're needed to protect Mother Nature too. Mother Nature needs us.
Yes.
Oh, anyway. I also like the seesaw one.
Me too.
Want to read that one?
Sure. I'd love to read that one. I do want to be a hog, though. Let me find it in a different place. Where are you, Seesaw? Maybe if I put my glasses on, I'll see it better.
I left my glasses in the living room.
Here we go. Up and down. First you're on a seesaw sitting on the ground. Then you're on a seesaw way up in the air. When you ride a seesaw, balance in the middle, you've solved the riddle. And the reason I love this one is because my sister and I, they used to have these huge seesaws. You don't see them anymore because they're considered dangerous. But my sister and I would go to the park and we'd get on the seesaw. Well, when I was little, I was the oldest, but when I was little, I was like a skinny little bean. I was really, they used to call me Beanie Jeannie Skinny, because I was so little. And she was heavy. She had been heavy all her life, poor baby, And what would happen is she'd go down and I'd go up and we'd be stuck. She couldn't get up and I didn't have enough weight to push her up. And so she would get so angry, and she finally got so angry she jumped off the seesaw. Well, my side came bam down, and I broke my arm. It fell on me, and I broke my arm in 4 places. So when I was reading this, I said, she's so right. You got to get in the middle of the seesaw, because if you don't, even if you think you're up, then you're going to be, what do they call it, asking for a fall, because you're too high up. And of course, you don't want to be low. You want to be balanced. And I think that's what it is. You need to have a balance. You know, you don't want to be down and low, but you also don't want to feel like you're up too high, because you're going to fall if you do. So I really like that one.
I love that. And so true about the balance. It's what we see.
And how do you find that balance? You know what, we did the same thing, Gina, as kids, and I had a big neighborhood, and I remember also it was, I don't know why, because we were children and we didn't know that we would hurt one another, but we would actually do it on purpose to bounce them off of it. We would
really?
Yeah, I don't think I did that, but I remember thinking, you know, it was funny, you know, and it was part of the game, you know, and then we learned that if there were 2 smaller kids, they could sit on that part, you know, and the older kids, you know, the bigger kids maybe, you know, would be on the one by themselves. And then there would be a couple of children. So, you know, the thought process can lend itself that when we're too light and the burden is too heavy, and, you know, we can ask, you know, somebody come sit with me on this side, and it will help to balance too. You know,
That's
that
wonderful.
Yeah. And Teri, I didn't mean to interrupt, you know, because of course that philosophy of balance, you know, plays in, you know, into it. And that's what you were sharing with us.
Yes.
So important.
Absolutely.
I think,
Yeah.
I don't know that I know she was mad at me. I don't know if she meant to bump me off. I know she was pretty mad because I couldn't make her go up. So.
Yeah.
What a painful experience, though.
It never hurt. I know that sounds crazy.
Oh my
You
God.
should have seen my arm. It was all, because it broke in 4.
Terrible.
It broke this way and it broke this way.
Well, and you must have felt bad too, you know, because you wanted to get down, you know.
Well,
let me
yeah,
down.
I was scared
Let me
up
down.
there.
I don't like it
Yeah,
up
I
there,
was.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So don't feel too bad just for your sister.
Oh.
And you're the one that got hurt.
I felt bad for my mother, because I went up and says, Mom, I
Oh.
think there's something wrong with my arm.
Oh my gosh.
And she fainted, dead away. She fainted.
Oh.
Perfect
And when
motherly
Dad
response,
finally
right?
brought her through, we got in the car, and we were one of the few people at that time who had a car. And we got in the car, and she cried the whole way to the hospital. And I kept telling her, Mommy, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt, Mom. And she just bawled her eyes out. And they said it and everything, and it never hurt. I don't know. It just never hurt.
But you must have had a week or two that you couldn't quite pull your own pants up and get yourself dressed. And
and it was my left hand, which I'm left-handed.
Oh,
so
boy.
I couldn't do my schoolwork. Such a
Yeah.
shame. Or anything. It was that for about, I think, 4 or 5 weeks before they could take the test. Yeah. But anyway, I just love your poetry. So.
Did anybody else have a poem that you wanted to read? And we want to say hello to Kathy Hand, who just popped in. She's at work today and got a very busy day at work, but she popped in to say hello to us.
I have one that touched me. Well, they all did, but this one stood out. It's Never Alone. And it's if I go to him feeling empty inside because I'm alone or afraid, he reminds me there is never a time I feel doubt. I need doubt things he has said. He put people close by who need my love and give of themselves to me. Someone who wipes my tears away, a friend who asks me to pray. He shows me how special I am to him and to those who are part of my life. When I go to him feeling empty inside, I come away thanking my guide. Sorry, I had to have my glasses on. But yeah, that one touched me the most. It's beautiful.
What's the reflections on that, Stacy?
When you have felt alone or afraid, did you give in to the doubt or go to your place of solitude to seek the answers? I think I've done both.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking that too.
Mm-hmm. I think I've done both. And then, can you name a person and experience when friendship brought you to prayer by uniting yourself to God or your higher power? I feel like every day we pray in our morning cuppa, and we're always in prayer for our friends. And so I believe that. Yeah, so thank you. I love that.
I love that too. And I just want to mention that Aunt Mary Lou's niece, Christina, would have been here with us today. She popped in, but she's got a kind of a sad situation that she's taking care of and asked for us all to lift her up in prayer. So if we could, when we leave this meeting today, just remember Christina and what she's going through and lifting up her beautiful little kitty sweetie. Okay, anybody else have anything you'd like to share? I've loved this meeting today. I've loved hearing your poetries. Absolutely amazing. When we just set an intention, okay, I'm going to just see if a poem will come through, and it does. You know, we don't have to overthink it. We don't have to force it. And I want to ask Mary Lou, did you find that there was any time when you tried to write and it was because you were trying to make it happen that it didn't happen?
You mean trying to write poems?
Or any writing. If you said, okay, I've got to write now, and you try to make it happen, was it difficult at times to put those words down if you were trying to force it to happen?
Yeah, I never really forced it. I just, I felt that inspiration come to me and I enjoyed it. It was something that centered me. In different times I did it. I think you can write because you're happy, and you can write because you're feeling sadness or loneliness. And perhaps all of those poems, reflected the way I was feeling that day, or that week when I did write them. And they're timeless, aren't they? For instance, I wrote them all those years ago, and yet, Teri, yours fits so beautifully, and I can see why Auntie Jean loves the one that she loved, and Stacy, it's lovely how they're all unique to the individual, and I don't think that I intentionally wrote them because I was feeling a certain way that day. I think I just desired to pick up my pen and my paper. And I do think any kind of journaling that we do is going to help us process.
Mm-hmm.
And probably that's why I did these originally. The poems was to process my thoughts, my feelings, to maybe relieve myself if I was feeling sad or lonely or afraid, or to build my own self, my self-compassion.
Mm-hmm.
And to increase my sense of value within myself, and to show appreciation for the world around me. My daisy poem that I just love daisies and nature, and so there's a lot of reasons I think that you sit down and and start, reflecting in a
Mhm.
written word.
I want to thank you, Mary Lou, for your wonderful book. And thank you to all of us who are present here in this space, holding this space that is sharing love and this great communion over poetry. I liked the poem. I have several, and they're small ones, but I want to talk about the one that is alone. And it says, alone is but a state of mind, a tool I use to be unkind to me, my best and dearest friend, an unsung tune to comprehend. Not true, this hammer in my brain, a beat in time, a song's refrain. That resonated with me, and especially the reflections, because the reflections ask us, what meaning do you give to the word alone? That is a very special word. And Teri does always tell us, step back. Step back means go into your alone, move away from whatever is creating some misunderstanding or a situation that you need to step back and look at. And that's saying step back and be on your own, be alone. And it also says here, what are some positives about being alone? You're able to reflect, to see where you're going, to see what your response is, to see what is going on inside of you. And I feel most of all to be one with spirit and with God, and to also allow others to be themselves, because you step back and then you say, what is the process to turn being lonely into appreciation for solitude? I think that is the most powerful sentence and awareness and thought-provokingness, because I do, from my background, there are certain things, or there's a way of going into the desert and meeting in solitude God, the fathers of the heart, and going to meet yourself. So that to me is magnificent and wonderful, and it resonates a lot with me, because I tend to want to be alone, to be able to reflect, to be able to understand that this is a journey, that the most important aspect is to listen and to hear and to see God's face. Can only do that in alone time, in solitude. And my mother always taught us, be your own best friend. If you can sit in a room with yourself, that is the most treasured aspect of this journey, so you can learn about yourself. So thank you. Thanks, guys.
Grace Isis, you always blow me away with all of your beautiful wisdom. Thank you. Thank you for speaking, and for all of us today who spoke up and shared the love that we're feeling for Aunt Mary Lou, our author. And if you all would hold up your books again, anybody that's just tuning in or might see this later, we encourage you to get this book. It's on Amazon. And our author, Mary Lou, is so precious and dear to us. Thank you for being with us today and for just sharing your light with all of us.
Going along with what Grace Isis said and her mama, being alone with yourself is, when it brings to mind the greatest command, love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. You know, and I think it's like a trinity there going on, you know, where you need to love yourself, you need to love others, and you get your love from the center, from God. So thank you.
Amen.
Be comfortable with yourself. Love yourself.
Self-care and self-love.
Yes.
Those are the ingredients. Thank you all so much for being here. And we do this every Wednesday, 1 o'clock Eastern time. We look forward to next week as we get further into discussion of this beautiful book of poetry. And maybe we'll have some more poems written by then, or some more of your beautiful poetry that we have to share that touched our hearts and what that meant as we reflected on it. Thank you. And Julie Kiss, I see you coming in. Hello to you. And we are going to leave everybody at the end of this meeting with Namaste, y'all. We'll see you later.
Love y'all.
Bye.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.